Hello and welcome to News Central Now. Here on News Central Television, I am Joe Hanson. Let's take a look at the top stories for this hour. Federal government opens IDP camps as flood submerges 70% of Maiduguri. Nigerian army says notorious bandit Bola Tinubu will be captured soon. And airport workers in Kenya down tools over new deal. Thanks for staying here with us. We'll bring to you the stories in a moment. News Central Now begins with the latest update on the flood situation in Maiduguri. National Emergency Management Agency says Borno State government's efforts to relocate displaced residents are indeed ongoing. Now, this was revealed by the spokesperson, Monzo Ezekiel, who added that 3 internally displaced people camps had been opened to accommodate those affected. Thousands have been displaced and 3 inmates recaptured after a jailbreak as Borno State faces its worst flood disaster in 30 years. The flood has submerged 70% of Maiduguri, including key locations like the Shehu of Borno's Palace, the State Secretariat, and the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. President Bola Tinubu, currently abroad, has called for the immediate evacuation of residents from flood-affected areas. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, attributes the flooding to an overflow at Alau Dam following heavy rains. NEMA spokesperson Monzo Ezekiel stated that about 70% of Maiduguri is underwater, with many residents waking up trapped by rising waters. Emergency services are now focused on rescue operations and providing support. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima, has indeed assured that the federal government would prioritize the welfare of the affected communities in Borno following the severity of the floods in Maiduguri, describing it as the most catastrophic in over 3 decades in the state capital. The Vice President, Mr. Shettima, stated this on Tuesday during an on-the-spot assessment of the ravaging floods in Maiduguri, Borno State. This comes as residents of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, are now desperately calling for help from the government as the flood waters have displaced thousands. Take a look at the details in this report.
Thousands of residents in Maiduguri, Borno State capital, and parts of Jere local government area are now stranded. Their homes, schools, and businesses overtaken by floods. The collapse of the dike and overflow of the Alau Dam, which is about 10 kilometers away from Maiduguri metropolis, is what has led to the displacement of the residents. After the secretary to the Borno State government, Bukari Tijani, led a delegation to assess the situation of the dam last week, he assured the general public that there was no cause for alarm as measures would be taken to mitigate any disaster. Sadly, the reverse was the case as flood waters started flowing into town from Monday. The flooding has since affected major areas like Shehu's Palace, Monday Market, Post Office area, Gwange Murumuru Customs Bridge, and the zoo, amongst others. In an on-the-ground assessment of the devastating floods that have swept through the state, Vice President Kashim Shettima, who arrived Maiduguri on Tuesday, expressed deep concerns over the situation and has directed relevant government agencies to provide immediate relief to the affected communities.
Inshallah, za mu hada karfi da karfe. Ita Borno State government, da federal government, da NEMA, the National Refugees Commission, inshallah the North East Development Commission za mu dauki duk matakan da ya cancanta a dauka a share hawayenku. Akwai hakkinku a kanmu, kuma hakkinku nan shine mu ga cewa mun tallafa muku. Kuma ba siyasa ba, gaskiya za mu gaya muku duk abin da ya cancanta a yi za mu yi don mu share hawayenku. Muna muku godiya bisa ga halayen dattaku da kun nuna. Ba wanda yake ihu nan, ba wanda yake zage-zage. Kun yi imani cewa wannan masifan daga Ubangiji ne, kuma insha Allah Allah zai share hawayen.
Residents of various communities have since been advised by the police to avoid flooding routes and stay in safer areas, as the police and other relevant government agencies are doing everything possible to ensure safety of lives and property.
In the meantime, Vice President Kashim Shettima paid a courtesy visit to the Shehu of Borno, Abubakar Ibn Umar Gabar El Kanemi, following the devastating flood in Maiduguri. The Shehu expressed gratitude to the federal government for its prompt response to the disaster. However, urged the government to establish a high-level committee to thoroughly assess the causes and effects of the flood, which has created widespread damage across the region. Drawing parallels to a similar flood in 1994, the Shehu emphasized the importance of finding a lasting solution to prevent future occurrences.
Your Eminence, we are here at the directive of President Bola Tinubu to commiserate with the government and people of Borno State, most especially His Excellency the Governor, and Your Eminence, the father of the state, over the very catastrophic flooding incident this morning that devastated a greater chunk of Maiduguri. The President has given the assurance that the federal government will stand firmly behind the government and people of Borno State towards ameliorating the pitiable conditions of our people. We are talking to the organized private sector for them to further reinforce the efforts of the Borno State government. Honestly, Your Eminence, the tragedy that we have seen is well beyond the capacity of the Borno State government alone to shoulder.
I thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your timely visit to Borno and Maiduguri particularly to sympathize us with these very sudden mistakes. In fact, it's very unfortunate and a great pity, especially this particular time when most of the people are about to wait and take their food items from the farm, and this unfortunate incident and that's terrible. However, it is an act of Allah, and nobody will question the act of Almighty Allah as anything made by Allah. It's justifiable, correct, and good. Your Excellency, the people of Burma are very grateful to you.
The Shehu of Borno there speaking, but let's join our man who's live on ground and has been covering the report, especially the incidents right from yesterday. We do have Umaru Kirawa, who joins us all the way from Borno State. Good morning to you, Umaru.
Yes, a very good morning.
All right. Kindly give us the latest report, and what's the IDP camp looking like at this moment?
Well, you know, it's a very painful experience. Again, people going back to the IDP camp. Hundreds of thousands of persons still come to the IDP camp. Behind me, if you can see, these are families who have come to the IDP camp to receive support by both the federal government and the state government. Some of them slept on the street, while some of them are here at the IDP camp here at Yarwa GGSS Maiduguri, and while others are at the Bakasi IDP camp. We learned that the federal government has released 3 billion naira to be disbursed to these families, and the Borno State government has commenced the disbursement of 10,000 naira each to the families that are inside. But these ones that we are seeing, they are on the queue waiting to be allowed by the security men to get into that school, that Yarwa GGSS, because the state government recently closed down the schools due to the flood incident. So this is the situation now, and families here are hoping that they will get the 10,000 naira in addition to the promise made by the state government that it will support families with building materials after the flood has subsided. So this is the situation, and even the state governor is inside this Yerwa GGFS IDP camp. We just left the Bakassi IDP camp where hundreds of thousands of persons are staying there.
A very, very sad situation right now. But then again, the Vice President did speak to the people. Can you share with us what that did, especially to the victims who have been affected by the flood? Is there any opportunity that they will be moving to neighboring states as well to seek shelter?
The Vice President sympathized with the victims. As you can see, most of them are here, sympathized with them, telling them that it is an act of God. It's a natural disaster. There is no second way about it, but that they should be patient. The government is not really interested in reimagine or re-engaging in IDP camp. However, the government will support them to meet up to their expectations, but they should be patient. Food will be provided, and some little funds, 10,000 naira, are being provided for now by the state government. But with regard to the issue of taking them to other neighboring states, that there is nothing like that for now, because Borno, we had one of the largest IDP camps in the country, and those IDPs which were affected due to conflict of the Boko Haram insurgency have been resettled back to their homes. That is the good news. And so the victims of the flood now are using those shelters that were initially used by the victims of insurgency. That is the situation for now.
All right. Lastly, before you go, how are the victims of the flood coping with feeding? We do understand that a lot has been destroyed, infrastructure equally affected, and any sights on the animals being caught, especially those that came out from the zoo. So I'm asking you two questions now. How they're coping with feeding, and the animals, have they been caught? Those that the animals that escaped, from the zoo.
Yes, first, with regard to the issue of feeding, like I've said earlier, the state government is giving these victims 10,000 naira each, at least as an immediate response to their needs, at least to get something to eat, as in addition to food that the government is said to be providing. And with regard to the issue of the animals that left or broke the zoo, some communities actually kill those animals because they are dangerous. I've heard of an incident where a woman was bitten by snakes. So, but natural, the animals, some of them, the wild ones, were being killed, but most details cannot be provided for now. The governor is even out now. I think they are through with the distribution of the money to the victims of the insurgency. If you can see them, they are coming out now. So this is the situation by and large from Maiduguri.
All right. Thank you so much, Umaru Kirawa, for that update all the way in Maiduguri. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, we do have Executive Director, Reneville Development Initiative, Philip Jakpo. He'll be joining me to continue this conversation as we take a look at the current situation happening in Borno State. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. If you're just joining us, this is News Now on News Central. One of our top story focuses on Maiduguri concerning the ongoing flood that's caused a lot of havoc there. We were joined earlier on by a man, Umaru Kirawa, giving us an insight into what's going on. But right now, I do have the Executive Director, Reneville Development Initiative, Philip Jakpo, joining me to look at this current development. Now, we understand that the floods began when a dam overflowed after heavy rains. Now, what are the primary factors contributing to the severe flooding in Maiduguri? And do you think there are underlying environmental issues, such as deforestation or climate change, that are exacerbating the impact of the floods?
Well, first things first, I want to thank you guys for having me on this very sad occasion. Sad in the sense that what we've seen happen in Maiduguri is something that was completely avoidable. A dam does not just get filled up in a day. It must have taken time, excessive rains, and then in civilized climes, what we see happen is that there's a gradual release of the waters so that you don't have the kind of devastation that we have seen. Because when a dam breaches, it causes even far more problems than if you are releasing the waters gradually. Because once you release it gradually, the water goes off. But unfortunately, I believe somebody or some people somewhere did not do their jobs well. So what we should have been hearing now is somebody resigning somewhere or somebody being sanctioned. But unfortunately, that's not what we are hearing. NEMA and the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agencies had warned for months that we're going to have this kind of flooding and the disasters we have now. Now, of course, we would normally talk of climate change. Climate change has its impacts, and climate change affects different regions of the world, even in the country, in different ways. We are talking about flooding in some parts of the country. Residents of Plateau State are praying for the rain to happen. So climate change, there are parts of the world that is too hot. There are some parts of the world that has become so cold. The glaciers are melting. In our own climate, what we're experiencing is unusually heavy rains. But the issue of climate change ends there. Management of the waters, management of flood is the responsibility of our government working with the states. But what we have seen clearly, like I said, is a failure of governance, failure in terms of how the National Emergency Management Agency and its state counterparts work, failure in governments taking responsibility, because when NEMA and Nigerian Hydrological Services Agencies warned, states were supposed to take proactive measures. That is when this dam will have been monitoring of this dam to see if the water gets to a level, what do? We start releasing waters, but that did not happen. And instead, what are we seeing now? We are seeing the Vice President, of course, went there, and all the consolatory talks. These are afterthoughts. The devastation that has happened in that state is unquantifiable. And I want to predict something else. And this is very, very important, because we now see that the state government is distributing 10,000. By the time more people in those communities hear that the state government is distributing money in this crude way, there's likely going to be a stampede, and you might end up having more deaths. So we've watched it, we see people queuing up because they just started. By midday, you are going to hear that people have thronged that place. They are going to trample on, if it's not taking, trample on pregnant women, kids who are queuing up for that money. So we see clear failure of governance in what has happened, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. I mean, your points have been made, but don't you think, I mean, personally, I think kudos should be given to the federal government for answering to the call of the people, especially when they made that call for help, and the Vice President did get there on time. But aside that, we also got your point about the giving of 10,000 naira. Do you think that that's very important and necessary at this time? And we also have seen stories that bags of rice would equally be given. It seems like the bag of rice is one of the things that happens to be the first respondent, especially when there are situations bedeviling the people.
Well, my response will come, first of all, I am not personally satisfied with the fact that, yes, of course, the Vice President has gone there, which, of course, should be expected. This is what happens when disasters that are avoidable happen. But there are things that should have been put in place before now. NEMA has been warning, civil society has been warning that some things should happen. We are talking about the dam in Maiduguri. We are not talking yet about the Alau Dam in Cameroon. If it's raining heavily in Cameroon, there's a likelihood they may also release waters. We are not hearing anything now. But by now, what we should be hearing, for instance, is that the federal government is liaising with the authorities in Cameroon to know if there's a likelihood that, because it's the same region, that flooding, excessive rains will also lead to release of waters from the Alau Dam. And if that happens and combines with what we're having today, then it's going to be a major crisis. I've said it several times on set before that flooding issue is a national security issue. And I wonder why we are not taking that serious. Because if you have war with another country and half of your country is underwater already, what will you do? And if we don't become serious, UK is not taking, some other countries nearby is going to use water as a weapon of war. So we are not thinking that's what is happening here. The vice president going there, okay, well, that is just a medicine after death. 10,000, I still repeat, I'm surprised that 10,000 could come out as fast as possible. Recall when the chief of staff to the president visited NEMA, I think some weeks ago. What did he say? He said something that is very, very instructive, that NEMA is supposed to be both proactive and ensure mitigation. Suddenly, NEMA and the state governments now have this obsession about rice sharing. That's what we're going to be hearing now. They've shared rice. So there's this obsession about rice going on. And the reason why that is happening is because bags of rice are going to be diverted.
Okay.
That is what has been happening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Philip Jakpo. Thanks for your thoughts concerning this story. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's move on now to another story. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has vowed to capture notorious terrorist leader Bola Tinubu soon. Speaking in Abuja on Tuesday, General Musa declared that Tinubu's capture is imminent. He addressed reports of Tinubu imposing levies on communities, assuring that the military, in coordination with other security agencies and state authorities, is working to protect citizens. General Musa urged community cooperation, emphasizing that public support is crucial to defeat the terrorists. He stressed that informants within the communities hinder military operations and warned against aiding the terrorists. He reassured Nigerians that the armed forces remain committed to restoring peace and normalcy across the country. Well, to discuss this development, we are joined by Inko Tare Palibo, a security expert. Thank you so much for being here once again. Given the ongoing operations against the notorious Bola Tinubu, how effective are the current strategies being employed by the military? Do you think there are any specific tactics or approach that could be used to strengthen or modify the chances of his capture?
Well, for now, the military, they've just made their commitment known to the public that they will surely arrest Bola. You know, their strategy has not been made public. Of course, we don't expect them to publicize their strategy. And for me as a person, I'm not even expecting them to come and tell Nigerians that they will soon arrest Bola. What Nigerians want is result. It's not an explanation. We've gone past the time for explanation and reassurance. We want the arrest of these terrorists, in fact, as soon as possible. The mere fact that he is physically present in certain communities, imposing levies, collecting levies, and moving about and still perpetuating the crime of kidnapping. I mean, it's absurd for us to see that happen, and then yet the Nigerian army keeps reassuring us that he will soon be arrested. They should go and arrest him.
Intelligence playing in the pursuit of Tinubu. Now, are there any intelligence gaps that need to be addressed? Just 2 days ago, the NCC came out with a statement that may have excited many, making it clear that very soon they're going to implement the tracking ability for on mobile devices. And we've seen that some of these Sicilians, or better still, some of these bandits, usually initiate phone calls. Do you think that this would also be a good way in terms of using technology to capture these bandits as well?
Well, under normal circumstances, the announcement made by the NCC should be received with joy, because tracking of devices and phones and numbers, they are means of fighting crime as well. But you will agree with me that in the past we've had instances where phones could be tracked. Right now, even before NCC made that announcement, or made the announcement 2 days ago, the Nigerian police force, they have what it takes to track phone numbers. The question is, why haven't they been tracking the phone numbers of the kidnappers and the bandits? Why haven't we seen a breakthrough in that area through the use of technology? So the availability of technology is one, the utilization of technology is another. If the security agencies will utilize the breakthrough announced by the NCC to track and apprehend criminals and terrorists, fine, it will solve the problem. It's part of the ways that the problem could be solved.
Well, there are cases of informants who are actually within the same community. And how essential is community cooperation in the fight against Turkey, for instance, another terrorist group, looking at the fact that you may also have informants who live even amongst the people?
Yes, on both sides, we have informants. On the side of Turkey, there are informants. On the side of the government, there are informants. So it now depends on the effort of the government to circumvent the activities of the informants to the terrorists. So if you want to arrest a terrorist, there are so many things you do behind the scene. You know, these things happen in other countries. Like today we are celebrating the remembrance of the 9/11 and in the United States. If you go back to history, you will find out that the United States took it upon themselves to get rid of Bin Laden. And they knew where he was, and it took them, after knowing where he was, it took them months of preparation so that that operation will be precise in the execution. So it's the same thing. If we know where Turkey is, you just need a little more preparation and professionalism to be able to get him arrested or killed, and you know, as the case may be. So that he has informant is not enough to keep him aloof.
Thank you so much, security expert Inko Tariak Palibo, for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, next news, hundreds of internally displaced persons from over 300 communities in Sokoto State have abandoned their villages to bandits and terrorists in the Isa and Sabon Berni local government areas of the state. The community members who are now displaced are currently taking refuge in government primary and secondary school buildings within the two local government areas of the state. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Frustration, hunger, and hopelessness are clearly visible on the faces of these internally displaced persons. Many of them recently displaced from hundreds of villages within the Sokoto East Senatorial District. Sabon Berni, though mourning the recent murder of its emir by these marauding bandits, has however become a home of the refuge for all.
ta share magobir hawayenta wagga masarauta ta gobir ta ƙara ɗaukaka ta ga idon duniya saboda yanzu gobir ta shiga cikin idon duniya.
Akwai wasu makwabta na nan yanayin ma samun aurtala suka kama suka yi mata walakanci jiya cikin dare suka shigo garin ga suna nan murar tarihi in ma kuna so ina aika suna nan sun yi su ɗari kullun cikin abin da ake kenan kullun yanzu haka akwai yaro guda da ta ji wallahi suna cin sun kame shi mu nan ne gwamnati ta ki kula da mu koyo su cikin bane suka kuma muna ji mai abu kuma yanzu ba ai ba don Allah muna son gwamnati taimaka mana don Allah ta taimaka mana.
This is Abdul Ahmed Model Primary School here in Sabon Berni, the refuge home of internally displaced persons. Surrounding me here are a lot of internally displaced persons from different villages across Sabon Berni local government who were sent away by bandits, you know, to come here and take refuge. I'm one of the IDPs who's going to give us the story. Nanka dede? Yes, Nanka.
Sunana Ridwan.
Ridwan. Me kake yana?
Zaman gudun hijira nake yi.
Me faru?
Bandit sun takura muna a ƙauyenmu. Ba mu da kwanciyar hankali, matayenmu da yaranmu da mazajenmu duk muna cikin wannan makaranta. Ko da an koma hutu a nan wurin ba za mu samu damar barin nan ba tunda idan mun bar nan babu inda za mu je.
Many of the IDPs have their own unique story of starvation, hunger, and sickness.
Gab da mana mun sassabe za mu shibka sun ce sun ba su naira 100 miliyan 250. Ba mu da su suka ba su mun kace ba mu da su. Suka zo suka mana farmaki sun haka shi mun mutum 7. To mu tashi hankali yayin mana yawa mu haga zaman mu wurin nan akwai hadari. Shine mun ka taso mun ka dawo nan ne. Ko duk da haka nan ba su bar mu ba. Sai su tare hanya suna daukan mutanen mu suna aza mana kudin fansa.
With women and children being the most affected in the crisis, the same is visible at the camp. While the situation is there and can be regarded as a humanitarian disaster, many here will be hoping that the government comes to their aid and as quick as possible. In Sabon Birni, Sokoto State, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Well, it's set to the east of the continent where chaotic scenes unfolded at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport overnight as staff went on strike early Wednesday over a proposed takeover by India's Adani Group. The strike, initiated by the Kenyan Aviation Workers Union at midnight, brought the airport to a standstill. The controversial plan to lease JKIA to Adani for 30 years in exchange for a $1.85 billion investment has sparked public outrage, with critics warning of potential job losses and loss of future airport profits. Kenya's government defends the deal as necessary for upgrades, including a new runway and terminal improvements. Meanwhile, the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya Human Rights Commission secured a court delay, citing a lack of transparency in the agreement. The 10th of September each year is a day set aside on the international calendar that focuses on suicide prevention and worldwide commitment and action to prevent suicides. In this report, News Central's Bongani Siziba explores the suicide crisis that has gripped the Kingdom of Lesotho, a crisis that has seen Lesotho emerge as a country with one of the highest suicide rates in the world. She goes behind the crisis to hear from survivors as well as families who have tragically lost loved ones to this devastating act. Take a look.
This vibrant life of Maseru, people mill about, engaged in conversations and activities, yet a somber undertone exists beneath the surface. Here, resilience clashed with a staggering reality, the highest suicide rate in the world. For the Basotho people, life often presents a facade of bravery, but beneath this mask, a battle ranges. But what compels an individual to see no other solution but to end their lives?
This is more prominent amongst the young adults and the youth, starting from the age of 10 up to the age of around 35 or higher. So in that situation, that's where you realize that that's when people would be expecting to get, their life going. They will be starting to have families. They will be starting to have responsibilities that are really demanding. So in the case where you don't have, the economic muscle to do that, I think for some people it becomes quite a big challenge, and they become overwhelmed and unable to respond accordingly.
Join me as I meet with those affected. They bravely share their stories with me. Meet Ntanti Pakwe, a survivor whose story echoes the struggles faced by many here. Once consumed by darkness, today she stands as a beacon of hope. These scars are a reminder of how she has braved this journey. We understand you have gone through 1 or 2 episodes. Just take me through that. And when did it start? How did it happen?
Bongani, you know, everything started during my prepubescent stage. It's been a very sad journey. I wouldn't say lonely, but I would say daunting, very scary journey. Neither myself, nor my parents, nor my family, nor my friends knew what was going on. We didn't know how to explain it. We didn't know how to compute it. We didn't know how to make anything out of it. With every passing day, I would hate myself. I didn't understand myself. There's a build up. There's a pile up of incidences and mishaps and painful scenarios, painful lives, bad decisions, bad things happening to you, people taking advantage because of your volatile state, because of your vulnerable state. And this doesn't help with the illness. It piles, and until it becomes a lot. And I don't think any medication can solve that.
Mental health issues often remain in the shadows, leaving individuals to believe they have no one to turn to. Ndate is a survivor who has experienced these feelings firsthand.
I've been scolded, I've been punished, I've been whipped. Everything. We all didn't know what to do. I've tried to run away from myself. I've tried to kill myself.
Yet, for every story of survival, many others are lost. Like that of Mayor Mapalo Nsabo, whose daughter couldn't find the strength to carry on.
There, lying down, she was near the door this time. So I tried to talk to her and she didn't talk. So I asked those people to find me a car so that we can take her to Tebo. Then we took her to Tebo, and when we arrived there, they said she's passed away.
A mother's heartbreak shows us the silent battles many face.
I'm not feeling well, Mama, because when you are raising children, you think you'll see them till you are old. You see their children.
Mayor Mapalo Nsabo offers advice for the youth who are too often lost in the shadows.
They have to work hard to help themselves. Even if they are not working, they have to try something to make money so that they can help themselves and the children too.
In a nation where traditional values often clash with modern pressures, the complex issues of mental health often go unaddressed. Poverty, unemployment, and societal stigma are just a few of these factors contributing to this crisis.
Employment is not there. They are not able to create jobs for themselves. So there is a lot of frustration, a lot of hypertension that is causing because of the challenges. And again, there is a new notion of money that young people would want to have money by hook or crook. So they would start in drugs, they would start in that, and they lose hope, and therefore they kill themselves.
The struggle for the Basotho people is not just in the headlines. It lives in their hearts and minds. But out of despair, there can be unity, understanding, and ultimately hope. Together they can write their narrative and break the silence surrounding mental health. In Lesotho, for News Central, Bongani Sisiba.
Thank you, Bongani, for that detailed report. Well, still ahead, Vice President Kamala Harris takes fight to Trump in fiery debate. We'll bring you details after the break. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Kamala Harris went on the offensive against Donald Trump in a fiery televised debate, getting under her rival's skin as they battled for a breakthrough in an agonizingly close election. The Democrat clashed with the extreme Republican on hot-button issues, from abortion to democracy, and accused him of being a friend to dictators. Trump repeatedly raised his voice as he hit back at the vice president on immigration and the economy, branding her a Marxist and blaming her for what he said were the failings of President Joe Biden's administration. The former president claimed after that the clash in Philadelphia was his best debate, while Harris's campaign also claimed victory and challenged him to a second debate in October.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population.
And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay?
Will end up being Venezuela on steroids. First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction.
In the world of sports, technical director of the Nigeria Football Federation, Augustine Egwuavoin, has debunked reports that he has quit his position as Super Eagles interim coach. There were reports on Tuesday that Egwuavoin had resigned following Nigeria's barren draw against Rwanda's Amavubi. The 59-year-old has quickly moved to dispel such rumors, stating that people spread false stories. Egwuavoin took charge of the Super Eagles in an interim capacity following the failure of the NFF to appoint a substantive head coach for the team in time for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Benin Republic and Rwanda. Nigeria tops Group D with 4 points from 2 games, having defeated Benin Republic 3-0 in Uyo on Saturday. The 3-time African champions played a goalless draw against Rwanda in Kigali on Tuesday. Benin Republic came from behind to defeat Libya 2-1 in the second match of Group D's Matchday 2 contest in Abidjan on Tuesday night. With the victory, Nigeria's western neighbors now rank next to the Super Eagles of the group's log. The Nigerians on 4 points and not conceded any goal yet remained atop of the group, while the Benin Republic with 3 points rank next. The Cheetahs of Benin, however, have a 2-goal deficit in goal difference. They opened their Tuesday night game with their back on the wall as they considered a 9th-minute penalty kick that Libya's Faisal Saleh converted. The Libyans carried out the lone goal advantage to halftime. 5 minutes into the second half, Benin Republic restored parity from a rifling shot by Steve Moini. They seized the momentum and got a penalty kick, which Junior Olaito converted. Matchday 3 will hold next month as Nigeria hosts Libya, while Benin, playing back-to-back at home, will host Rwanda. Both matches will hold on the 7th of October. Rangers defender Ifeanyi Onyebuchi says the team is ready for the CAF Champions League clash with Zili Maju. The Flying Antelopes will confront Angolan League runners-up GD Sagrada Esperança at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium in Uyo in the first leg on Friday, September 13, 2024. Onyebuchi assured the club's supporters that he and his teammates are positive going into the match, which he appreciates will be tough against the visiting Angolan side that overcame Seychelles' side 4-0 on aggregate in the first preliminary round. Let's tell you that Brazil and Argentina were both defeated in their latest qualifying matches for the 2026 World Cup. Brazil were beaten 1-0 away at Paraguay, their 4th defeat in their last 5 World Cup qualifiers. Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson, Newcastle midfielder Bruno Guimaraes and West Ham playmaker Lucas Paqueta all started. The Real Madrid trio of Rodrigo, Endrick and Vinicius Jr. started in attack for Brazil in the defeat. Defending world champions Argentina lost 2-1 away at Colombia, with former Real and Everton midfielder James Rodriguez scoring the winner from the penalty spot. Lionel Messi, now of Inter Miami, did not feature for Argentina. And that's all the news we have for you for this hour. Before we go, a quick look at the top stories. Federal government opens IDP camps as flood submerges 70% of Maiduguri. Nigerian army says notorious bandit Bola Tinubu will be captured soon. And airport workers in Kenya down tools over new deal. You can go ahead and send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen. And do well to follow us on all socials. We are at News Central Television. You can watch us live every day on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Limex, Avo TV, Open Havens Prime. You can also stream live on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm Joe Hanson. Stick around. The ladies will be here at 10 a.m. for Jasiri. Thanks for watching.